As you can see, there's a gift bag with cupcakes in it and candy, and there's a card. Um, how do I put this? I walk around and I stop and talk to people, and sometimes they really need someone to talk to. And what has changed is I used to always talk about myself because I had the problem that they have. In other words, you feel like no one's listening to you. You feel like you're all alone. And I don't preach Jesus. I don't preach any religion. I'll tell them about being Episcopal, how easy it is. And Robin Williams was Episcopal, and he did a shirt. Go read up on it. It's funny. But anyway, so I hit on this thing where I walk along and I just start talking to anybody. Well, actually, I look at them and they look like maybe they need a friend or they're trying to kill time or something like that. Now, they're not used to it. And I told you, I showed you what I look like. I have this beard. It's not trimmed. My hair is long. It's not cut. Uh, my sneakers are all split open. I'm a disaster. But for some reason, when I start talking to people, listen to their problems, and I said I can solve that problem for you, but you're not going to like it. I said I'll tell you how you solve it, but it's the hard way, and most people take the easy way. But I'm going to tell you anyway. So I tell them what I would do, or actually the solution, and it's up to them what they're going to do. But I started bumping into people I'd seen talked to a year ago, and they started saying, you know, it really meant something to me that you stopped and talked to me. About this is happening more and more now. And one of them was I had met a minister, and I've met over 20, I think at least 25 ministers. And the guy's wife had died, and I walked with him. I'd walk maybe a mile with him, and then his sciatic nerve went bad. I walked with him, and then he got married, and he moved away. And I bumped into him, and he was telling me how much better he's doing. And he started going off, and I get very nervous when they start telling me, they start thanking me for in the past being there for them. That's the next thing I have to accept. Now, my big problem is when you see my video, you're seeing me rant about my past, how I wasn't appreciated, how I was used. And a lot of that is just, some of it's my fault. When you hang around the wrong kind of people, you're going to keep getting the same results. And there's people that are givers, and there are people that are takers, and there are people that just need someone to talk to once in a while. There's people that want to talk to people all the time because they just spout. They never do. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I don't like those people. All they do is tell you what they're going to do, and they never do any of it. So I've been actually. It started with my friend Frank teaching me how to tell when someone's lying, and he taught me that. And he said it would change my life. Well, I've gone further, and you would say you're absolutely crazy. If you were walking with me, I had a guy that walked with me. He died, a secret smoker. Uh, he would get really annoyed with me. I could cut across, which I do. I cut across from the dollar store to the exit diagonally. And in there, in the different cars, are people that are sitting, waiting for someone to get their real ID. This situation just happened. And there's a PennDOT there. And the person will drive the person there to get their real ID. And it's a 3-hour wait. So I go cutting across the parking lot, and I can spot the person sitting in their car, waiting, just the look on their face. And I'll pull up and they'll roll the window down. I said, "Are you waiting for someone at PennDOT?" "How'd you know?" I said, "You got that look on your face." And they get out of the car and we have a long conversation. And sometimes I meet someone they're really having problems. And I just said, you're not making the hard decisions. I said, I'll tell you straight out, you're not making the hard decisions. You're taking the easy way out. And I said, you know what you should do, but you don't do it. And I said, until you start doing the hard decisions, you're going to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. You know, when they have trouble with their children and drugs and all that. I said, you can't hope you can't hope that it goes away. But it's so funny. Lately, I've been meeting people that have bumped into me a year ago or whatever. And this one guy, he's married. I got a kid. And the last time I preached to him, I said, you really need to stop renting and buy a house. And you know all about all the mistakes everybody you're helping. He's an accountant. He knows how what they're doing with their money. And I said, there's never a good time to buy a house. If you talk to the old timers that bought a house, they had a second kid coming along, or a relative got sick. It's never the time to buy a house, and there's never a time to get a new education or to move up on an education. That's just the way it is. But after you get there, years later, you're telling someone the story. Go, yeah, we got the house. Your mother got sick. Her mother got sick. The kids were sick, but they got the house. Things have changed, and they're not renting anymore. And the one guy, he had said to me, I talked to you about a year ago. I really thank you, because he started thinking differently. I said, it's never a good time to buy a house if you want to look at it that way. The economy always looks funky. And then when the economy is good, the houses are really expensive. And the thing is, you got to realize that you buy a house, and for 5 years, it's got you. Maybe less. People I helped buy their first house, it happened sooner. I told them they were going to have 5 horrible years, and basically the guy was able to refinance at a lower rate. He took the house at 9.5, and the other guys we were working with, half of them had houses, and the other, and they were telling him, man, you got to wait, you got to wait. And I said, he's not getting any younger. Well, I won't go into details, but anyway, the guy bought the house, got it super cheap. And every once in a while, I'll bump into him online or whatever. He thanks me. There's never the perfect time. Now, my father came out of World War II, and my mother kept trying to find a place to rent, but she found a place to rent, and then her sister ran down there and put a deposit. And my father was back, still living with his mother-in-law and father-in-law. But at some point, my father bought a 3-family house, and he was all set. And then all of a sudden, my mother was going to move her deadbeat family into the house. And my father started having anxiety. And he called the realtor up. And the realtor was so glad to take the house back, because the houses were going nowhere but up. And he told my father, he says, I want to tell you, he says, I'm going to make money off you. And my father was just saying, well, as long as I break even. And then my father bought this little Cape Cod that I grew up in. In other words, none of the family could move in. It was too small. But I watch everything, and some people do appreciate it. That's why, I whine a lot, but there are people that come over, ring the doorbell, and give me banana bread. And some of them are older than me. But it was really nice that you come over and checked on me and talked to me. And, and a lot of the people that I do talk to, their personalities, their ego, they're really tough to hang with. Yeah, you just like, they're never going to change. And let's just say the guy, his wife died, and he's just hanging in there. And everybody else is trying to help him. There's several of them in the neighborhood right now. The wife has died, and they want to be waited on. They don't want to do anything anymore. And it's just, I'm learning so much about people. And what I had to learn was the people that really need the help, and the people that are just going to use you. See, I always gave. I was raised Episcopal, and one of the things is you help the other guy ahead of yourself. And then when they're happy, you should be happy. You should be happy that they're happy. That's how I was raised. Well, when you find out that someone has used you, it hurts. And like I told you, the one guy said, "Sorry, sweetie, he didn't pay me." I did work. I worked for a week for him, and did everything he needed done. Got it all working. But it was funny, a year later, he never paid me for the software. And the machine went down, and he lost the hard drive. And he calls me up. He thinks I'm going to come running down and install the software. And I just said, sorry, sweetie. You know, you never paid for it. You got a receipt? Oh, and I hung up on him. And then someone I know rented next door to him. And they said he went ballistic. He got a hammer and started beating stuff. They called me up right away. He says, what did you just do? And I said, how do you know? Oh, he's cursing you out there. I said, he never paid me. I set this machine up for him and got it all working. And then, sorry, sweetie. And then now he wants me to come up there. And he goes, you got to be kidding. I said, remember all that time I was there? I said, he never paid me. They go, you got to be kidding. And those guys, they were kind of cheap too with their money. But I've been screwed over by people. It's my own fault. My father used to say, get it in writing, which is bullshit. Nobody does that. Well, yeah, some people do that. But anyway, I just want to tell you, I know when I tell you my stories, they're from the past, and I got screwed over. Now, here's one. I know if you've made it this far. No, I'll leave it for the next video. Yeah, because this video here, most people like, so he helps people in the neighborhood, and they buy them candy and stuff. You don't understand. You don't take the time out to help a fellow American, a fellow traveler, a fellow person on Earth. Yeah, I was raised a certain way. I think that's it. That's it for that. I just wanted to tell you. I know one guy was sending me DVD. Don't send me stuff. I got stuff. I'm happy. I just need cooler weather, which we started getting. I'm gonna do another video right after this one. All right, I'm gonna go for video number 2. We're cutting this one off. I think that's it. All right, that's it.